Hello and good evening, esteemed colleagues, members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, and fellow healthcare professionals joining us from across the country. Welcome to today's webinar on United for Patient Safety, Understanding Recalls of Health Products and Technologies. As we wait for a few of our members to join, maybe you can engage with me on the chat. Type in where you're tuning in from. Hi Ezra, karibu sana. Hi Caroline from Mombasa County. Thank you, Stephen Letio from Baringo. Welcome. We'll just give a few of our colleagues, see we already beyond quorum. In case you know anyone who would benefit from this webinar, feel free to share it with them. I see we have Sarafina Saru. Thank you, Dr. Janki from Nairobi, Nelson from Busia. Hello, Purity from Nairobi. Hello to you too. Mombasa in Nairobi, I see you there. Karibu sana. You don't want to miss out on this session. Karibu Cyprian from Mombasa. Is there anyone from Kiambu? I think I've never seen anyone type there from Kiambu. Moses from Nairobi, welcome. We are 5 minutes past the hour. Welcome to tonight's CPD webinar. As pharmacy professionals, our primary commitment is to patient safety and the integrity of the healthcare system. We all know marketing authorization is just the first step in ensuring patient safety. But what happens after this product hits our shelves? That is where the post-marketing surveillance comes in. And tonight's webinar will enable us understand the nuances of regulatory recalls, mechanism behind it. We shall be guided through by Dr. Onesmus Saidimu, who is a Principal Regulatory Officer at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. And before I hand over the floor in a moment, just a few ground rules. I have posted a link for everyone for a pre-webinar survey. I've posted a link. Kindly make sure you fill in it will only take 2 minutes of your time. Pre-webinar survey. I hope all of you can access the link. And even as you fill in, just a reminder on a few ground rules. You will be muted during the entire course of this session. In case you have a question, kindly use the Q&A tab. The chat section is for general remarks and interactions. This question shall be addressed by our panelists during the session and even at the end. The event is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube page. You are reminded to proceed to the PPB practice portal and subscribe. Use the keyword recalls, as you can see on the screen. United for Patient Safety, Understanding Recalls of HPTs. Ensure you subscribe. We shall share out tokens within 7 days, and you will have up to 7 days from today to claim the tokens on the portal. Without further ado, Dr. Saidimu, the floor is yours, and we look forward to an insightful session. Karibu sana, Dr. Saidimu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miles. I want to take this opportunity to welcome the Pharmaceutical Society Fraternity for this webinar. My name is Dr. Onesmus Saidimu. I work at Pharmacy and Poisons Board, Post-Marketing Surveillance Division. And just before we start, I want to introduce my team from the department to say hello with me in this webinar. And they are going to be the panelists for this meeting. They will help us respond to some of the questions that will be raised. And for purposes of maximum utilization of time, we will be responding most of the queries on the chat so that we have much time to deal on the subject topic for today. So I want to welcome Dr. Abwao to say hello.
So good evening, team members, the PSK fraternity. Thank you very much for finding time to join us. My name is Edward Abwao, of course, working at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, currently in charge of post-marketing surveillance. Happy to have you here. And as Miles had said, I will appreciate if you could kindly just fill for us the questionnaire that has been posted there. And feel free to ask any questions. We are here to help you. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Dr. Abwao. Dr. Silas, you ready?
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Dr. Silas Kitonga, working at Pharmacy and Poisons Board, Product Safety Department, Post-Market Surveillance Division. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silas. Dr. Roslyn? Maybe if Dr. Roslyn is not hearing, we can also have Dr. Bramwell Tongola from the Office of the CEO to say hello to the meeting.
Good evening, colleagues. It's a pleasure to join you in today's sensitization. I wish you all the best, and at the end, we hope that you will be more sensitized to report and to handle recalls in our country better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tongola. I would like us to have an opportunity today to go through what a recall is. And just for your information, I work for a post-marketing surveillance department. And my work here entails receiving market complaint, investigating the market complaint that translates into recalls most of the time. And so I have an opportunity to go through the whole process from getting the product to recalling and the challenges that come with this process. So I interact with the MHS, the difficulties that we get in, going through the recall process. And so listening to my presentation today gives you a practical process rather than a theoretical lesson, because this is what I do on day-to-day basis. And the purpose of this webinar is really to have you members of PSK, the pharmacists, to really be able to appreciate and coming handy when recalls, anytime you get a recall from the board on your desk. And just before I go into details, all of us as pharmacists, the first thing we do when we finished our training and get graduate, we all take an Hippocratic oath, and that oath is first, do no harm. And recalls present an opportunity that harm can easily affect our patients, and this is the oath we take. Welcome to the session. The mandate of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board regarding recalls is well captured in Cap 244. When you look at Cap 244, Section 3A, D, and Section 3, 2, K to I and M, this provides that the board has the power to recall health products and technology from the market whenever necessary in order to safeguard the life of the public. And Section 3B mandates the board to implement post-market surveillance as a way of monitoring safety and efficacy of health products. And why do we need to do this? Why does protection of patient matters as far as recalls is concerned? Ensuring that health products are safe, effective, and of good quality protects our patient from the preventable harm. And so ensuring that our patient do not use recall product is one way of preventing harm. And we all know that prevention is better than cure. We also save lives and improve treatment outcomes by ensuring that only those products that are safe and of good quality are available on our shelves. This also builds public confidence in the healthcare system, and it supports timely identification and recall of unsafe, defective, and falsified or substandard product. So when you look at this slide that I'm presenting, I've actually just shown what we saw in the first slide. The mandate of the board is well captured. And then the reason why we need to protect the patients through an efficient recall system. So I want to take a minute just to take you through an overview of post-market surveillance activities that we carry at the Pharmacy and Post Board. Basically, we employ two approaches to post-market surveillance. One of them is reactive post-market surveillance. And this is responding to issues after they are reported. So the key activities here is evaluating of reports and feedback from stakeholders that are reported spontaneously, investigation of market complaint. Then, of course, we do a lot of investigation to assess the suspected poor quality or unsafe health product. And so when a poor quality report is made, we do assessment and investigation thoroughly just to make sure that the authenticity of the reported complaint is true. And then we also implement regulatory action according to the complaint reported. An example here are adverse event reports. We receive most of the time through the PVRS, product quality complaint, suspected counterfeit or substandard product, and all these falls under the reactive post-market surveillance approach. And then another approach we use is proactive post-market surveillance. This is actively looking at the potential problems before they affect us. And the key activities that we do here is plan market sampling of health products. And so this is preceded by putting up a team, a technical working group for PV and PMS to come up with protocols for sampling and testing of the product. After the sampling exercise, these products are submitted to the laboratory for testing and quality evaluation. We also carry out scientific quality surveys and then identifying of risk before widespread patient exposure. And so this is another program that we regularly carry out, and a number of problems can also be identified when you take these products to the lab for testing, or even by just using organoleptic techniques, looking at the products, look at the labeling, look at the color, and the details as available in the in the packaging of the product. And so examples of these programs include routine market surveillance studies, targeted quality surveys, risk-based sampling programs. And this slide just presents the way in which the two are spoken about, both the reactive and the proactive surveys. And just before I go there, I don't know how many of us present here have ever reported a market complaint or a suspected poor quality product in our places of work. I know this is one of the questions for before you register, and I just want us to take 3 minutes for this poll. So have you ever reported a suspected poor quality product? So let's take 2 minutes to just see. This is very important. You know, one of the role of pharmacists is to be very vigilant, because we all know that the product we deal with, we are the experts. And so even without going to the lab, there are many things that a pharmacist can be able to identify. So another 1 minute to allow participants to respond to this poll. Yeah, I think we can close the poll. And proceed to
Okay, Dr. Saidimu, closing in a moment. Just a moment.
okay.
Proceed. Yeah.
Have you closed? Good.
Yes.
Wow, so we can see, I think we can look at the results later. But I just want you to look at these graphs. So we just provided the number of product quality complaints by year from the year 2022 through to 2026. And you can see how the growth of market complaint reported by stakeholders in the market, including even patients. So 2022, we had 91, 2023, we had 282, and 2024, we had 328 market complaint reported, in 2025, 419, and 2026, which we are midway, we have 170. So maybe we expect by the end of the year to maybe reach the height of 400 or thereabout. So you can see if you never made reported a market complaint, that the growth has been, the trajectory has been on a high end, and this is because of the sensitization that the market is being taken through every time. Wow, so this is a map of the counties. So you can look like that is a county that has made around 93, followed by 84. And so you can see basically the entire counties are actually making reports. Some have made few, some have made significant market complaints to the board. And so you'll be able to say where your county is and what's happening. This is a responsibility of every healthcare worker, with us pharmacists being in the front for being expert in medicine. So let's again go through this slide on suspected poor quality reports by active pharmaceutical ingredients. And so when you look at this slide, the axis part provide the API, and the vertical axis provides the number of reports that have been made. And we have paracetamol here with 102 reports ever been made, followed by lopinavir, lamivudine, dolutegravir. And then you can see it goes down. And this shows you like every product can bound to have a poor quality issue. From paracetamol, going to antibiotic, tamoxifen, clavulinic acid, to painkillers, brufen, magnesium sulfate, the drug we use for antihypertensive, methyl dopa, the medicine we use for maternal with our mothers, oxytocin. We have a significant report, 22 reports of oxytocin have been made. Syringes, which are medical devices, have not been also left behind. We have got a number of people making reports of the syringes and the needles. Cotrimoxazole, which is a very common antibiotic that is used in our setup, both in the public sector and in the community pharmacies. Malaria medication, AL, metronidazole, all the way, even up to anti-TB medication, RGZE. So you can see both the high molecules and the small molecules are bound to have poor quality elements, and they have all been reported here. And so none of the product really will say that this particular API, you do not get a poor quality nature. Again, you can take a minute to look at the product quality complaint type. So from the system, people have reported various issues ranging from caking of suspension, and we have color change being the most poor quality nature reported in most of our products. I think basically this is because color change is very easy, is very visible and easy to look at it. Incomplete pack, lack of efficacy. So we have a number of products reported in the market. Patients are given medication, they don't respond. Some are theater medication. You inject someone, they don't get anesthesia, they don't sleep. What next to do? She need to proceed with the next process, but the patient is still looking at you and moving. Mislabeling, molding, order change, powdering, and separating. And then you can basically see with the product quality type we see here, these are majority of them are the things apart from lack of efficacy, therapeutic failure. Most of these other ones you can see, you can use your organoleptic techniques to be able to detect and report. You use your eyes. You can see that some people who are also using their nose for the order. And so most of these organs that you are given are very, very crucial. It's going to show you some of the photos of the products that we receive from the market on color change. Yeah, some of these ones are actually very bad, but others, even a slight change of color is also enough to show you that something is wrong. So you can also see even some patients who are being transfused. This is a recent one, which is actually an ongoing investigation of patients who are undergoing dialysis. And you can see clotting happening in the process. We have tadalafil there. You can see most of this. These are things that we receive. These are worst case scenario, but even the slight changes you'll be able to pick. So over time, the board has carried out a number of post-market surveillance from 2023, 2024, 25 as a continuous program, because this is the only way that we can assure the quality of the product in the market. By walking to the market, sampling the product, taking to the lab and analyzing. And so if you need to see the results of the many rounds of post-marketing surveillance that the board has done, you can look at the website that is provided, HTTP there, and you will be able to see all the reports of the post-market surveillance that have been carried out. So why do we do post-market surveillance? The purpose of doing post-market surveillance is just to ensure that products comply. But in some instances, we do a post-market surveillance and we find a non-compliance. And CAP 244 empowers the board to take regulatory action. And these include implementation of risk-based PMS, good storage and distribution practices in GMP. We also do quarantine and recall of affected products. We issue public alerts, prosecution of supplies of falsified products, and closure of manufacturing facilities. So if you are a manufacturer and you are not complying with the GMP, this only remains give the board the power that such manufacturers are closed until they complete to with the CAPAs. And then we also update the guidelines and SOPs, issuing of guidance on a number of issues, including storage. And we must have all seen, or a number of us have seen that the board have now recommended that any storage facility for medicine must have a thermohygrometer. And not just that thermohygrometer that you manually record. It's recommended that you have a data logger with an ability to be able to download that data, so that when inspectors come to the facility, they don't have to look at the manual record, it sometimes can be misleading, but they just put that data logger into maybe their machines and be able to download the data. So this is what is recommended, and the body issued public notice on this. So for those of us probably who have not complied to this or who are hearing for the first time, we like you to make sure that you buy those data loggers. So let's look at these three terms: quarantine, recall, and withdrawal. I know they are not new terminologies to this audience, but mine is just to say that it's very important that when a quarantine notice is issued, it's good that we all, put aside the appetite of trying to push that product again. Let's make sure that we quarantine that product so that as the investigation is going on, and then at the end of the day, we either lift that quarantine or that product is recalled, depending on the finding of the investigation. And this is very important because you may proceed to try to sell that product under quarantine, but later you find out that that product has a big issue to or affect the patients. Recall, of course, is the removal of specific affected batches of health products. So it can be one batch, it can be several batches of the same product from the market. And this may be due to concerns about product quality, safety, efficacy, or effectiveness. And for batches of that product that are not affected, they will just remain circulating in the market because it's not a must that when one batch has a problem, the rest have. So that's why we specify when you are doing a recall, we give you the batch number, we give you the date of manufacture and the expiry date of that product. And then withdrawal is the complete removal of the health product or technology from the market because the product no longer meets marketing authorization requirements due to concern about the quality, safety, and efficacy, or maybe the product is no longer effective. And as a result, its market authorization ceases and the product no longer be supplied or distributed in the market. So this slide just summarizes what we previously gone through about quarantine. You need to store the storage of quarantine products should be in a separate area, clearly marked, and the access where you keep those products should be restricted. And the purpose is to prevent the use or distribution while evaluation or investigation is ongoing. And this happens at warehouses, pharmacies, hospital, and distribution points. So in our facilities, it is very important that we provide a quarantine area for any of these purposes. And this is an area that should really be under lock and key every time it is in use. So the recall is the same. The reason is due to concerns about the product's quality. The scope we said affects one product, one batch, several batches of a product. And for the withdrawal, I don't have to emphasize that. So how many recalls have we done or the boss done? So again, when we look at these graphs, this provides just in numericals the number of recalls that the board has contacted over time from 2020 to 2026. We can see 2020 where we recalled 17 products. 21 we did 10. 22 we did 11. 23 we did 18. 2024 we recalled 32. 2025 we recalled 43. And 2026 we've done 13 recalls so far. So I know we can draw so many information from these graphs, but the baseline is to protect the users. So what are types of recalls? So we have two recalls. One is mandatory recall, and this is a recall which is mandated or ordered by the regulator after confirming that a health product poses a risk to the public, either in terms of quality, safety, or efficacy. And the other type of recall is what we call voluntary recall. So a voluntary recall is initiated by either the market authorization holder or the local technical representative or the one who distributed. In instances, maybe it was a donation. So we have a lot of donations. Sometimes when we have medical camps, we have guys coming from different parts of the world, and they say, we want to do a medical camp, allow us to have this medicine for the population. And a number of times the board allows that. And if any of those products now has an issue and they are not registered, the person who supplied now take the mandate of recalling that product. So this is initiated by the owner of the product. I know in every company, we are all being sensitized that we need to have qualified person pharmacovigilance so that you monitor the products in the market. And when you have an issue, you'll always approach the board whenever you want to do a voluntary recall. And basically, so the difference is only who has initiated it. But basically, the process of carrying out the recall is the same. You have to follow the same process. But even for voluntary recall, you must first get the authority of the regulator that you want to recall your product for one reason or another. And then when you're given authority, you follow the due process as prescribed by the several guidelines and SOP from the board. So this is just another photo that I've tried to just summarize what we said, in what mandatory recall is, and what is a voluntary, and what are the characteristics of each in terms of what they are, but basically how to carry out the recall process. It follows the same route. So just before we go to recall classification, maybe you can pause from there if we have any question, even as we participate in that poll. So the poll is asking you, have you or has your facility you work for ever participated in a product recall? And if yes, what challenges did you encounter? Let us take this poll. And this is the reason actually why you're having this webinar, just to be able to demystify about recalls and how do we go about the challenges that we currently face. Both you as a MAH or a recalling firm, and also what challenges is the regulator facing in enforcing recalls. And as we take this poll, it's just very important because there is one saying of a wise man who was called Warren Buffett. He said that it takes 20 years to build a reputation, but it only takes 5 minutes to ruin that reputation. And as pharmacists, if you think about what Warren Buffett said, then we'll all change our perception differently. And there was also another saying. Unfortunately, this one is not documented because it was said by a pastoralist. I must say from Narok North. So there are these two men who are staying together, and the animals were living together. So the herd of the two of them had, like, I think it was around 200 herds. But the second man had only 3. So majority of the cows were from one farmer. I think almost 195. And so one of the evening, this man with 3 cows, they were chatting at around 6 in the evening. He was visited by a friend of his, so they were saying. And so when they are walking into the boma to take tea, this visitor, when they were going through the cow's entrance, this visitor noticed a rusted nail where the cows passes on the entrance. And he told the other one, oh, but this guy was called Wale Sananga. Akamwambia, Wale Sananga, hii mshumari iko hapa ni hatari sana. Ng'ombe zikipita hapa inaweza kanyanga, na you can imagine ng'ombe inaweza kufa. So the other one was Wale Sananga, now was the one who was passing near the nail. And so he dismissed his colleague. He told him, but why ng'ombe? Niko na ng'ombe 3. Piga hii ng'ombe 200. Rai ng'ombe zikipita hapa, kwani nafikiri itachagua ile yangu 3? Wewe twende tukunye chai. Wacha story mingi. And so they went to take tea. And they took tea. So the time they are coming out of the homestead, the cows now are coming to the boma. And you believe you me, this is a true story. That one of the cows of this man stepped on the nail, and this is now the one that the wife was lactating. So it was the only one that was giving milk. So it stepped on the nail, and the nail really pierced through the 2 hoofs inside. So the cow was jumping on the front leg. So the woman could not even milk. And so he ran and told the 2 gentlemen, I think this cow has a problem with the leg. I cannot milk it today. I did not even get milk for the children, for tea. And so when the 2 gentlemen came, actually that cow had stepped on that nail. They tried to catch the cow to remove. It was getting dark and they could not remove the nail. So the cow slept the whole night with the nail. And in the morning, the cow was terribly sick. So they called others. They were able to get the cow, remove the nail. But the nail was removed and the cow continued deteriorating. And after 3 days, the cow died. And so you can be able to think for yourself from that story. So Miles, I think we've already taken this poll. You can close the poll so that we proceed. But just in case someone has a question from that introduction part of it, you can type, and our online team are there to respond to whatever questions are raised online. So what are the type of recalls? We already handled the types of recall. This picture is just to give a description. So Miles, you close the poll so that I'm able to proceed to the next slide.
Okay, closing. Okay, you may proceed.
Okay. Still hanging. Have you managed to close it successfully at your end?
Yes, on my end, it's closed.
Yeah, so recall classification. So how do we classify recalls? So we classify recalls into different classes for purposes of knowing to what extent this recall will be recalled, and again to also give us an idea about what communication, how communication should go, and also for recall timelines. What are the timelines that are required for each class? So we have recall classes we classify into 1, 2, 3. Class 1, of course, is a high risk one. The reason for classifying class 1 recall is reasonable probability that the use of or exposure to a defective product will cause serious adverse health consequences. So these are those ones that can either cause death or their consequences. The extent of the recall goes up to the patient, so the user level. So for patients who have used a product that is classified under class 1, we need to be able to reach up to patient level to recall, or even do a health impact to the patients for those who have used a product. And then on communication method, these class 1 recalls are normally announced by either the MAH or PPB, or both using public means, social media, the national radio, television, newspaper notification. And the purpose is to make sure that the wider scope of this reaches to the people. And the timeline for starting and completing this recall is 14 days. For class 2, the use of or exposure to a defective product may cause temporary or adverse health consequences. For example, it can cause an illness or a mistreatment with potentially non-serious medical consequences. An example of this is non-compliant with specification, using an assay. Maybe you do a quality control test and maybe the assay is not maybe 98, it's 96, 95, coming down. Maybe it fails stability. The wheel volume is not the one labeled. And the extent of recall of this kind of class is up to the retail pharmacists or hospital pharmacists. And we issue letters, emails, and phone calls as communication for reaching out where this product was supplied. And 21 days, we should be able to have started and closed that recall. Then class 3, this is caused either use or exposure to a defective product, and which is not likely to cause adverse health consequences. Example is like unclear labeling, minor labeling errors, underfilled or overfilled containers, parts which do not pose a clinical risk. And we only recall this product from either wholesale or distributor level. And then we use communication. We use letters, emails, phone calls, and 28 days is the time provided for that kind of recall. So basically in this slide, I've also just provided the same in photos giving detailed example. And I will share these slides after this with PSK for the members also to be able to go through at their own time and read it themselves. So what is our responsibility as stakeholders during recalls? Do we have a role? Yes, that's obvious. So we need to assess the risk and determine appropriate recall classification. So you need to look at what you discussed in the previous slide so that you are in a position to be able to classify the recall. And if the recall is a class 1, please just provide what it causes so that it is classified appropriately. The stakeholders also needs to approve and oversee recall implementation, monitor recall effectiveness and compliance, communicate recalls to stakeholders and public where necessary, verify reconciliation, product destruction, and recall compilation. And stakeholders also have a role in enforcing regulatory actions where stakeholders fails to comply. So the board will enforce some of these elements. And we all need to maintain public confidence by ensuring only safe, effective, and quality medical products remain in our markets. So what are the roles, responsibilities of manufacturers and market authorization holders? And these are not just the presentation, but when you look at CAP 244, the rules of 2022, these are provided for in the law. So you are bound to comply with them to the letter. Otherwise, the board can institute sanctions commensurate what is provided by CAP 244 if you don't comply appropriately. So the role of manufacturers here is to detect and assess product defects or safety concern. And that's why we insist that you have a pharmacovigilance persons in your places of work. you should notify PPB immediately of any recall decision on quality defect. So when you realize a defect, some people have been tempted to just return the product behind the curtain without notifying the regulator. So you're supposed to notify the regulator of any issue so that you're given a go-ahead to institute a voluntary recall, develop and implement a recall strategy in communication. And so whenever you're doing a recall, it's preceded by a recall strategy. What strategy are you going to use in calling your product? And so when you're working on a recall strategy, you will always have an officer supporting you from our department so that you aim to take the shortest time and recall as much as possible products from the market. So the strategy is really to make sure that you reach every point where your product was distributed and recall it within the shortest time, and notify importers, distributors, healthcare facilities. So it's your role to notify every concerned party that you supply the product, retrieve, reconcile, and safely dispose recall products. So this is, of course, a reverse logistics. And you are expected to submit progress and final recall reports to the board. So when you're doing recalls, you're supposed to give a weekly reconciliation to the regulator on the performance of your recall process. So we need to review your communication, that it has reached to the places that product was distributed. We need to see that a quarantine has taken place and the people have reconciled the quantity which was supplied to them, what was used, what is remaining. And you need to also investigate or do a root cause investigation and implement CAPAs for a product that has been recalled. What really caused the poor quality nature? You need to give a proper CAPA. The department will review the CAPA and will be able to agree with your CAPA. And when implementing it, the board will also make sure that they follow up so that you put the right implementation strategies of the CAPA. So importers also have a role. Immediately stop importing affected products, inform all customers and the downstream distributors, quarantine all affected products, assist in tracing and recovering distributed products. You need to maintain an accurate distribution record, and cooperation from product safety department is highly called for when this process is taking place. For distributors is more or less the same. You need to stop distributing immediately after you receive a recall notice, quarantine all affected batches. And so I think that we all need to have quarantine places in our facilities, notify all customers supplied with the affected products, retrieve products from the retailers and healthcare facilities, and you're also required to have an accurate recall records and reconciliation. So our team really looks at these records, and sometimes we find that people don't keep the right record. You try to cook, you try to put things that are not there, and that is an offense. So healthcare facilities, hospital clinics and pharmacies, they also have a role in identifying and isolating affected poor quality products. They need to stop dispensing and administering recall products to the patient. I give you the story of the two Maasais. And so don't say that, nobody is sick in my family. My people may not take this. You never know. So please let us all be very, very ethical and passionate in our work, so that whatever is not working, we put it aside. Inform healthcare workers within the facility. You need to return the recall product through approved supply chain. So if you are to take the product whoever sold you, so that they get your replacement or they get you the money, the MAH will give you the proper way on how to be compensated for the product that are being recalled. So you inform patients when necessary, especially for patient level recalls and for class 1. Report any adverse events or quality concerns to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. Retail pharmacies also have a responsibility, and they are no different from what the healthcare facilities roles are. And patients' responsibilities. So patients are supposed to stop using recall products immediately. And I know there are a number of issues when you're recalling a product. You'll hear people saying, oh, we don't have an alternative. This product it's only color. This product was tested and it met the standards required. And so let us ensure that we stopped any recall product from being used by the patient. Let's follow advice provided by the regulator, and also whatever advice that you also provide, let's ensure that the patient sticks to it. Return recall products where instructed. Seek medical advice if the product has been used and health concerns arise. Report suspected adverse effects or poor quality products to PPB or a healthcare provider. So really, when you look at our robust pharmacovigilance system, we even provided a platform that even the more common mwananchi are able to use, including even a phone line. Patients can call to report whatever issue they have with the product. And so these are just responsibilities of the various stakeholders in medicine, but I've just summarized in this slide for you later. But we've discussed them in the other slide exhaustively. So what are the examples of non-compliance during recall implementation? What have we come across as a regulator? The issues that we face, or the challenges, or what constitutes non-conformance of recalls? So one of them is failure to notify PPB or the regulator promptly after identifying a defective product. Another one is delayed initiation of a recall. So you find that you realize that you've been asked to do a recall, and people buy time just to have an opportunity for the products to be used in the market. This is very, very unethical, and this constitutes to a non-compliance. A failure to notify all customers. So any customer that have ever been supplied, whether it's a retailer, you need to have record so that whatever issues come, you are able to notify them. In our places of work, incomplete or inaccurate distribution records constitute a big problem, because in the recalling this product, you are not able to trace where the product went. Also failure to submit a progress or a final record report, constitutional compliance. And so I told you that when you're doing a recall, you provide weekly reconciliation. And at the end of the recall, you submit a final report, it reviewed, and each of the elements is audited. The number of products that has been quarantined or recalled back. We look at the communication. Have you communicated to every person that was distributed or entity that was distributed to the product? Have they received the call? Have they confirmed? We review the reply cards and reconcile the product. Inadequate effectiveness checks to verify the recall, continuing to import affected batches after recall, failure to quarantine recall product, and poor traceability of imported products. So track and trace is becoming a big thing that the board is working on it, because we need to be able to trace every product from the manufacturer to the user. And so I think that's a topic for another day, but something in progress. But even you at your facility level, you need to have your records in place so that you are able to trace the products whoever was issued. So non-compliance continues. And I can also say these are challenges, continued distribution of recall product. So some people intentionally continue distributing a recall product, even when they know that it's supposed to be off the shelf. Failure to inform retailers or healthcare facilities of recall product. So we have a challenge here. We issue a recall notice. We ask you to notify all the people who supplied. And most of the time you find distributors or wholesalers saying that they can't provide the data of retailers to the wholesaler or the data to the MAH, because they say these are our clients. And so when you give you the record, maybe you will be dealing with them directly. And so it's been a challenge downstream. It's easy or slightly better getting records from a distributor to wholesalers, but from wholesalers to retailers, most of the time it's a challenge. Mixing recall products with sellable stock, inadequate reconciliation of recovered stock. So we do verification when a recall has come to an end. We visit your facility, we will look at go through the records, go through the physical stock that has come, and to make sure that we reconcile all the products, whatever was manufactured, whatever was distributed, whatever was used, what was quarantined, and what was brought back, so that we able to see what is the effectiveness, the level of effectiveness of that recall. Poor documentation of recall activities, failure to identify affected batches in stores or wards. So we need to be very vigilant and keen, continue dispensing or administering recall products. Failure to quarantine recall stock, delayed return of recall products, failure to inform clinical staff or patients about recall products when required. And so some of these non-compliances are very intentional. They are not oversight, but people intentionally fail to do them so that the products continue circulating in the market. Selling recall products after receiving a recall notice, failure to remove product from shelves, returning products without proper documentation, failure to notify customers where appropriate, continuing to use recall products. Some stakeholders ignore recall notices. So you get a recall notice and you do nothing about it. Failing to seek medical advice after exposure to a recall product. And so this is an area that pharmacists and healthcare practitioners, whenever such happens, you know, maybe this product the patient has used has a serious impact the life, we need to do an health assessment of the patient so that a proper medical attention can be given to the patient. Failure to report adverse effects or quality concerns constitute a serious non-compliance. And so these are among the many issues that we grapple with whenever a recall is issued, and it's up to each and every one of us, whether you're a pharmacist, you're a healthcare worker, or even a patient. It is our responsibility to make sure that for safety of our patient, to prevent harm, a recall product should be off our shelves. So I've just provided a template page here for common example of non-compliance that we come across on our day-to-day practice. So what are the legal and regulatory consequences of failing to comply with PPB recall requirements? And it's very important because some of these issues have been even escalated into the disciplinary, the ECD, Inquiry and Explanatory Committee of the board. Some of them are very intentional and will be even dealt at that level. So there are several consequences the board can institute, ranging from administrative issues to legal issues. And for regulatory consequences, regulatory warnings or enforcement actions, suspension or cancellation of licenses, permit or registration. And so now whenever a recall notice is issued, we really are at pain to make sure that that happens. And you might realize that some of the processes can even be halted to make sure that you take a decisive action to recall your product promptly. So you might have some of your even permits being paused because people traditionally have not been giving recalls attention that they deserve. Suspension or revocation of product registration or market authorizations, product seizure, detention or market withdrawal. And we can also have an increased inspection and regulatory surveillance of your facilities, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you are a wholesaler, and also depending on what was the nature of the complaint or the nature that resulted to your product to be recalled. And legal consequences are not also limited to prosecution for offenses and applicable legislation, administrative penalties or court-imposed sanction, civil liability where patient harm or financial loss occurs, and legal action arising from negligence or failure to exercise due diligence. So let us be very deliberate and keen about recalls, because from now I know most of this can happen if we not take seriously the issue of recalls. So that's just the same I've summarized. And with Kenya and Kenyans being people who are very, keen about their rights, people can even take you to court, not even just a regulator alone, if they know that you are deliberately forcing recall products to be used. I know those three templates don't sound friendly, but it's good that we paint what is black, and what is white. But what have we done? What are some of the common recall implementation challenges and practical solutions that we've tried to do? When I was introducing this topic, I said this is some of the things that really puts at pain, because you walk through an entire process, sometimes, and it look almost personal, with your firm recalling the product, but compliance is not something that you can negotiate about when it comes to recalls. So a common challenge is poor product traceability. So like to ask that you maintain accurate batch distribution records. Where possible, use electronic inventory systems and conduct regular traceability checks. Delayed reporting of quality defects. A practical solution here is to establish a clear internal reporting procedure and to notify the board immediately a quality or safety issue is identified. Incomplete distribution records. It's good that you keep complete and up-to-date customer and distribution records to enable rapid product tracking and retrieval. Delayed customer notification. Maintain current customer contact list and use multiple communication channels, such as letters, emails, phone calls, public notices where appropriate. So there is no one way that can serve all your clients. Some of your clients hardly even look at their emails. So you need to do an assessment, know who you need to notify through a phone call, or even sharing through a WhatsApp, who you need to send a letter. So you need to assess your team. So you don't just say, I send emails, because you send emails, yes, but people have not even checked the emails. So you also need to be very deliberate to know that what's important here is that the end user or the end party gets the message or get the communication, not that you have just sent. So if it means sending SMSs, calling, and we'll check all those as part of the audit when you are checking the documentation. Failure to correct recall product. Please implement an SOP for immediate identification, segregation, and labeling of recall products. Poor stock reconciliation. This is one of the problems that we face every time we come for verification. Record quantities distributed, recovered, record returns, if there was any destroyed, and remaining to verify recall effectiveness. So this is how we quickly check your system and know what was your performance as far as the recall effectiveness is concerned. So if it is below some level, then you might also face some consequences. Inadequate staff awareness, conduct regular training, mock recalls and refresher sessions for all staff involved in the product handling. Weak coordination across the supply chain. So clearly define stakeholder responsibility and maintain timely communication between manufacturers, importers, distributors, healthcare facilities, retailers, and also the regulator PPB. And it's very important that we try to maybe employ the use of systems to make this work easier. I know maybe some of the facilities that we operate do not have many staff. Maybe you have 3 staff for smaller facilities. And so, but with a system, this really assists you to make sure that the information gets very quickly. And so contacts of your clients become very important. For the telephone contact and the email, whichever they use, is very crucial for recalling purposes. Delayed recall completion, develop a recall plan with defined timelines, assign responsibility for personnel, and monitor progress until completion. So another challenge is failure to verify recall effectiveness. So we conduct effectiveness checks to confirm effective products have been successfully removed from the market. And you submit a progress report, both weekly and at the end of the recall, we also check it. So what are some of the key success factors that can help you or that we have tried to employ with these challenges? So accurate record traceability, the foundation of a successful recall is on records and traceability. Where have they gone? Again, early detections becomes very, very important, and prompt reporting, acting swiftly and quickly to minimize patient risk is something that we all need to take it upon ourselves to do it. Clear communication with all stakeholders. So you need to give the stakeholders the right message at the right time so that they can make decision. Whenever they have questions, make sure that you clarify what is the purpose that the recall is being done. And you also need to have our staff well trained. For bigger firm, it's very important that you test your recall system, carry out a mock recall, maybe annually, because that will help you to be able to identify some of the weaknesses that will happen once a recall is happening in your system. So please do it and make sure that you do a kappa for any of the issues that you identify. Maybe when you do a mock recall, you realize that some of your customers, you didn't have their contact details, or some of your customers are not even responding. And so it gives you an opportunity to be able to take the necessary action, even if you are not doing a true recall. And then, of course, continuous monitoring and verification, ensure that the recall is effective and complete. Because we know preparedness today saves lives tomorrow. And so that mock recall you do today becomes very useful tomorrow. And we are all working together to protect patients and ensure that they are safe and the medicine that we are using as our weapons are of high quality. So the board has published recalls on our website, and I want to invite you to visit the website, check out the recalls, just have a tour of that website, maybe for the many reasons why these recalls have happened. Check whether maybe those recall products could still be in your stocks, in your shelves. So when you go to that website I've shared there, you will be able to get a lot of information about the recalls. So I've just provided there criteria on how you can reach to that site where the recalls are. So you need to visit a site, you click the safety communication recall, and when you get there, you'll be able to see that. And then you click recalls, so it will be displayed. Then we've arranged the recalls per year. So look at the years. If you want to check the recalls for 2026, you click the year 2026. And then the recalls are also arranged per product. So you select a product name to open the recall details. Then you will be able to see whether it's an ongoing recall, a closed recall, the reason for recalling. And you can see scroll down to the bottom of the page and click download recall report. And you can print it or save it for your use. So this page just provides you a route in which you can be able to check the recall. So when you get this slide is just to show you how you can get to the recall at the PPB websites. And so we have this very strong message that you report adverse events and suspected substandard or falsified products to the various platforms that the board has provided. So you can take to the nearest health facility and report what you suspect. So for those people in the villages, you advise that they can take there, and most of the healthcare workers will be able to help make this report reach the PPB. People can use our online reporting portal. This has been very useful. I think over 99% of the report, we get them through PVRS system. We also have that code, 271. And I know for a few days, there's been some bit of issues with the code, but I know that one is being resolved. It's just some challenges. And then we also provided the email both for a PV email and PMS email, and you have got a telephone number. And then for those of us who don't have Android phones, you can also have an report it on M-Pivas. And these are available on both Android and iOS phones. And what is very important, or the message that I'm passing to the audience here, is that as a regulator, we cannot be able to protect patients alone. This is our responsibility. All of us as stakeholders are needed in ensuring that our patients are protected. And so the call here is, please let's take our role, whether you are a manufacturer, distributor, you are working at the retail end, you have a crucial role. Remember, we've gone through the roles of each stakeholder. Whether you're an individual, please don't ignore that one report that you make to the board can be able to save many other lives. And so just as like what politicians say, that one vote count, because anyway, there is no man with two votes. It is the same thing that I am also saying that that one report that you suspect and report can be able to save an entire public. And we've discussed and said what are some of the reported quality issues. We've even taken to a level that they have helped in shaping the policy makers. Of course, PPB, we have a central role, and the importers also have a role. And all this contribute to the patient safety. It's a shared responsibility, safer health product, we have better patient outcome. And that is the reason that this topic was we all unite for the safety or the betterment of the patient. And so I think that ends the presentation tonight. My call is let us all unite in as far as recall is concerned. And so I can end there. If we have some questions that have been shared, I think Miles can, maybe if those ones that have been repeated, you can share. Our team online can also take those questions during this session. So thank you everyone for listening. And I know this talk today is going to save someone. So your listening and the action that we'll take from today henceforth is going to make sure that our patients will not die. It's going to make sure that our patients will not get a permanent harm. And this is going to ensure that our patients will be recovered through not using a product that has been identified to be of poor quality and have been recalled. Otherwise, I think Miles, if we can open this forum for questions, and our team can answer verbally, and those ones that may not have immediate responses or the time may not allow, we can even provide the responses to PSK. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saidimu. I see there are some flowers for you on the charts. Brian Nyabuto says a very informative presentation. Eric is waving, or I think clapping. I'm not sure what that means. Dr. Lillian Oyuer says, thank you, PMS team. I see some more emojis popping up. Good job on the presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for participating. At this point, I'd like to open the floor for questions. And maybe just for those who may have joined in late, we have a Q&A tab. If you've been following keenly, there have been some questions. I think most of them have been answered. The Q&A tab is open to everyone. Just maybe as we wait for questions, in case anyone has a question and they would like to speak verbally, you're allowed to raise your hand. I will unmute you and you can ask your question. But meanwhile, the PPB team has been very proactive in responding to the questions on chat and on the Q&A tab. Maybe if you're shy, you can type in the question. I can read through some of which have already been answered. For example, there was a question on how PPB qualifies whether an issue of product quality is not failure in transit and storage from the suppliers. And there was a response from Dr. Abwao that they take very expanded investigations. In addition to the complaints, they take samples and similar products from other facilities. Basically, they do a thorough investigation. And I would encourage each of us to go through the Q&A tab. Your question might have already been answered there. Rahab asked, how long does a product sit in quarantine before a decision is made? Dr. Kwao says this will depend on the investigations being done. If these are completed in a short time, quarantine will be lifted and product recall will be done after that. On the other hand, if the investigations take longer, then the quarantine will be longer. So there's a lot of information on the Q&A tab. I don't know if anyone is courageous enough to raise their hand and shoot their question directly to our panelists. And okay, how do you trace a product? Yes, I see I have one hand from Dennis Obonyo. I will allow you to talk, just be brief, and then you may direct your question to any of the panelists. Go ahead, Dennis. You may unmute and speak.
Thank you very much. Now, my issue is, you see, when there is no set specific time where quarantine has to be resolved, that is what opens us up to corruption. Because, you don't know when, even Supreme Court and High Court, they have deadlines. Present your case within this time, do this. So you need to set a specific time that resolutions will be gotten, which will remove the corruption aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Obonyo, for that comment. I'm not sure whether anyone from the panelists would wish to respond to that, or we can take one from Victor Nahungu, who's also raised their hand.
Good
Victor, you
evening.
may. Yes.
Maybe my question is maybe point of concern. The product was under investigation, the one that I had sent my report, and the report came very late. But the issue was the quality of the product. The quality of the product, it was not treating the patient very well. It was not effective. But we had already bought, we only bought only few products of them. It was about a artisan. But PBB gave the report very late, and we don't have any product to recall, to give back. How do you do in such situation that we don't have such product that is under recall in the hospital? Maybe you are not there and somebody used it and you're absent. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, for that question. I hope that our panelists got that correctly. I will take two more because of time from Simeon and Gilbert Kipkemoi. And Dr. Bernard. So kindly shoot your question, very straightforward, and they'll be responded to. Go ahead, Dr. Bernard. As Dr. Bernard is preparing, Simeon, you may speak, unmute, and ask the question. I'm not sure whether it's a present hand or an old hand.
Well, mine is a fresh hand. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. The information was the information flow was very good, and I think most of us have understood. My main concern is very simple. In our pharmaceutical distribution channels, there is multiple purchasing from different distributors. Now, when there is a recall, sometimes distributors would get in trouble because one retailer has purchased the same product from 3 different distributors, and it is the same batch. Now, the retailer may decide is returning it to only one distributor. Now, there's a possibility of a loss here, and I don't know how PPB can treat that, because we in our distribution channels, we are open. We don't have strict rules as to who should be distributed, what should be distributed to who, and therefore that brings a confusion that is very difficult for in terms of accountability. I don't know what comment PPB would have on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. Bernard, you may close in for us the last question. Dr. Bernard?
Trying to reach you, I cannot.
Kindly come again. I'm not able to get you clearly.
Are you able to get me now?
Yes, yes, you may proceed.
So my concern is this problem of product recall starts from premises registration. There are two types. There is the private and there is a government hospital pharmacies. And if you look at most of the pharmacies in the hospital setup, they are really very poor equipped. I don't know whether the BBB does really regulate the hospital pharmacists or they are on their own. That's my question. And again, in the private sector, when we are trying to register, I give myself as an example. I've tried to register premise. It is now 2 years. That is Southrift. That the BBB are promising to visit. They have never visited, and I'm now sure they cannot visit. So such leads to frustrations. As an example, so when you are frustrated, it is difficult to work with the regulator. Or when you see biasness, what are they doing, especially in the government? Can they give us examples of government hospitals they have visited, including maybe videos, and show us how the chemists are run there? What are they doing? How they handle commodity? Do they have functional fridges, a chain code? Do they have this, what we are talking about, quarantine areas? I can assure you 90%. If somebody can do a research on that, you will see by yourself. So let's do the talk. Let's walk the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bernard, for that. Maybe I can, at this point, let the panelists tackle the questions. And in case you have any question, feel free to type in the Q&A tab. Dr. Saidimu, do you want to respond to those few concerns that have been raised?
Yeah, thank you, Miles. One is on compensation. I know there is someone who said that even in returning this product, you might probably end up at a loss because you don't know who is going to pay you back. So the role of recalling, as far as the loss is concerned, is really on the market authorization holder. You can be an MAH or a manufacturer. And so compensation is expected that whether you are going to be given another product or whether you are given the money, this is the role of the MAH, the owner of the product. How that will be done through the chain, maybe from you to the wholesaler to the retailer, is something that can be done individually by MHS or manufacturers, but that is what is provided. I think from the market, this is a discussion that can happen, but I know opportunities of MAHs compensating for either defective products or those ones that got destroyed during transportation has always happened, and this is expected to go to that. But my colleagues can also put weight to this. Dr. Bernard, I know, sorry for saying that you have a facility that has taken over 1 year to be registered. I may not have really information to this, but Dr. Bao, I know, will be able to maybe shed some light on this. The board regulate both pharmaceutical outlets, whether you are in the hospital setup or whether you are in a private setup. And compliance from the public hospitals is expected. And as far as storage is concerned, the board has really been pushing them to comply to the letter. But of course, you know, government entities making decision on some things probably is a bit slow. But a lot has happened, and a lot is happening now. And compliance toward this end is accepted to also become a gone story, because there is no option but compliance to both storage and personnel in public facilities is concerned. So someone also raised a question like, it takes too long to do an investigation, and by the time we issue a recall notice, the products are outside the shelf, or you have already used them. Okay, I know Dr. Silas will respond to this, because he's handled this also many times. But let me just say off the questions that whenever you come across a poor medical product and report to the board, I know the portal provides an opportunity that you take photos, you clearly show where the manufacturing details, the batch number are. But a number of times when you follow up with a complainant to get a sample, then you just hear, we don't have the sample, or it was used. So it's good that when you report a poor quality product, please put it aside even before the board tells you to quarantine, so that when you carry out investigation, we are able to get that product and do an investigation, because it is becoming a bottleneck. Because when you ask the manufacturer of the MH now to use a retained sample from their end, most of the time it will be compliant, but that complaint sample is most important. So let me give Dr. Silas also to say something on the same or any addition, and then Dr. Abao can also say something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saidimu. I think you have already answered part of the question, because when you identify that a product has an issue, as we have said, that you are needed to quarantine the products. The quarantine of the product is to ensure that you protect the public. You don't dispense. And with the investigation of these issues or quality issues, sometimes it takes time, including visiting the manufacturing sites, which even it might be in another country, okay, to ensure that when you do a final conclusion or when you're implementing the regulatory actions, that you are doing it from scientific or evidence-based regulatory actions. So what we are saying and what we indicated in the slides is that you are not supposed to dispense or use a product which has been indicated as suspected poor quality, and you have been guided or directed to quarantine. Okay, that's why every facility should have a quarantine area, which is under lock and key. because I know we are pharmacists and we practice as per GDP or good distribution practices guidelines and requirements. You need to have that particular facility in quarantine area to ensure that the products cannot be accessed because it is under lock and key until and is provided by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. On the other issue on distribution records, I think so many people have touched on distribution records. It is a requirement that you have to maintain distribution records. Whether you are a retailer, whether you are a hospital private, whether you are public, whether you are a public facility. Because when you are getting the product, you are getting through the legal supply chain, which includes invoices. So you need to ensure that all these records are there. So when there is an issue, when there is a recall, you are able to quarantine the product, or you're able to retrieve the product, and you're able to return back to the distributor or the manufacturer. So you have to maintain distribution records. Yeah. And under GDP and good distribution practices, that is a requirement which must be compliant with. So thank you, Dr. Saidimu.
Okay, maybe Dr. Bo, I can see you have 5 minutes. Please, you can round
Yes.
it off.
So thank you very much, team. I think you've handled the questions. So there was the issue about public and private facilities having to comply with the requirements. So that is there, and PPB oversights even these public facilities, and they also some inspected. Actually, last week we even had a meeting with the COG, the head of health, I think, committee, and this has been communicated to them, and they took up that issue. And so the same information is also being passed to them from the Council of Governors on the need to ensure that there is good storage and distribution practices. So that is being done. On the issue of Bernard, about the delay inspection, apologies for that. I think you can share that the details about that through the email info@ppb.go.ke, so that it can be followed up. We get to know what actually is the real issue. So we'll share that information with the relevant department. So the other thing I wanted to mention, there's the issue about quarantine taking long and the investigations. This is being addressed. And if you've realized in the recent past, the PPB has really improved and even employed more staff just to build the technical capacity for us to be able to undertake these regulatory functions in a more efficient and effective way. And to note is that we've even having PMS staff in the regions. I think currently we already have four regions out of the 10, and this is continuously being built up to be able to help us build this capacity and be able to at least take a shorter time when it comes to investigating and responding to the queries that you have. I wanted to also mention again what my colleague Dr. Saidimu has said on the issues when you report to us any suspected poor quality medicine. As it is, kindly share the photo to start with, but most of the time you'll also need the sample. For us to confirm that the product is poor quality, we need to test it. And the best test is always compendial testing. And so even when we share these complaints with the manufacturers, which is requirement, one of the things they usually ask us is the sample. They want to see the sample for them to also compare with what they have in their retained stores. So our plea is that if you have the complaint sample, kindly share with us, and you can even send it to our regional offices, which are spread across the country, or even get in touch with us, and we'll organize how you can be picked from your facility. I think those are what I wanted to say. Otherwise, I'm very, very grateful for the numbers that were here. There's a time we were almost 1,300. We don't take this for granted. And in case of any question, feedback, comments, please feel free to write to us. You can call us. Saidimu, you can put the slide on the contacts so that we can be able to get to you Otherwise, asanteni sana, and back to you, Miles. Saidimu, the slide on our contacts.
Our contact?
The last slide, please.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the PPB PMS team for tonight. It was really grateful to have you in this webinar, and for your time and expertise. We thank you. As we've seen through the comments, the webinar was insightful. Special thank you to the entire team, Dr. Bramwell, Dr. Buao, Dr. Silas, Dr. Saidimu, and Dr. Roslyn. To our esteemed members and participants, thank you for logging in and staying engaged, and even engaging through the question and answer. As we conclude, let us carry the lessons from tonight back into our practice, and let us remain vigilant, proactive in reporting safety and quality defects in order to safeguard the health of our public. Because of time, I would like to close this meeting today. Just a reminder to ensure you have subscribed on the PPB portal. And that's all. Thank you to everyone. See you next week on Tuesday. Have a wonderful evening.